Yeah. So I started off playing I maximized out on the good Infinitrack cards. A lot of people are testing like cutting this down to one. But with the maths of the deck, I found that I could play if I maximize on starters, there's 12 one-card combos in the deck. And if I do 12 and I want to say I want to see a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2 of a starter, then I can actually play up to 45 cards to like optimally see 1. Okay. So and that also allowed me to decrease my chance of drawing my bricks, which allowed me to bump up my extender ratios, including Dozer, which is the best extender in the deck. If I open this and any of my Earth Machine starters like this or Gear Frame, I'm in such a like commanding position. They need like 2 or 3 hand traps to stop me from making at least a board. So playing 3 of this definitely was like very good. I play 1 of each of the bricks. This is kind of also an extender. It's what you normally search turn 3, but what I found is I'd search this for, like if I open Heavy Forward plus Trencher, other than searching Dozer, I'd search this. So, or like if I open Dozer Heavy Forward, sorry, I'd search this. So if I normal summon this and they let it through, then I could summon my Dozer and I'd have an extra body on board, so I wouldn't have to waste my Trencher. So give me an extra follow-up, because this banishes itself to reborn an Infinitrack from grave. So if I don't have to use this turn 1, then I can like save it for turn 2 and turn 3, which helps my grind a lot.
Okay, nice.
And Tunnel is the pot of avarice, so I loop through all of my link ones and then put them all back in the extra deck to draw 2 cards, which is amazing.
Ridiculous, yeah.
But I drew this card too many times over the weekend. So that's all the Infinitracks I play. I don't play any of the bad ones, but I do max out on the good ones, basically. For the Machina package, I don't play Cruncher, I play Gear Frame. So the Metal Cruncher is basically 3 more copies of Dozer, which is why the deck used to be called like Dozer Control. But this has such a higher ceiling. If you open Gear Frame plus at least 8 levels worth of monsters, so Regulus, Citadel, Ruin Force, then this is a full standard combo plus like Dora or Regulus or Citadel. So it's always like this is extra on top of the standard Harvester line, which is why Harvester is a way worse starter than this. Also, the interaction between this and Regulus is crazy, because you can, if this is engrave, you can Regulus target this to equip it, and then because it's a union monster, it summons itself.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so you get like just a free body. So if you have another level 4 on field, you can overlay for Giga and X,
nice.
which is really cool. And it allows you to play through opening your brick as well, which is the Unclaspar. This card is the hard Garnet of the deck. It's actually more of a Garnet than Box, because if you draw this, Gear Frame actually doesn't do anything. But what you can do, if you open this plus Regulus, which is why you'll see later I max out on Regulus, you can normal summon this, Foolish Burial Gear Frame, not Citadel or anything, and then Regulus equip the Gear Frame, summon the Gear Frame, and then overlay. Which was a play that came up quite a lot to like play through your break hands. Then for the other Machina monsters, I play 1 Fortress, 1 Citadel, and 1 Ruin Force. So like these are the boss monsters of the deck. Citadel is crazy. I actually, in round 7 of Swiss, I think, I set up a line that was going to trigger this to bring itself back. But as I was going to trigger it, my opponent said, "Have you got any triggers?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any triggers. Of course, why would I have triggers?" And I just was like, "Yeah, I didn't activate it," and it lost me the game. But it's fine because I won the next game. So like missing like these triggers is like really painful. But if you just like don't try and rush through it, if you try and like slow yourself down and just play at like a reasonable pace other than trying to rush through combos, because the combos do take a while, but there are a lot of small interactions you can miss if you try and speed through it. So but like also like Fortress, for being a decade-old card, this card's an incredible extender. I summoned it like 5 times in a game at one point, So it just keeps summoning itself back, and people like, especially with these two, oh, are they activated effects? And you're like, nope, I have just summoned a 4600 guy.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, a cute thing with this and Regulus is if you equip this with Regulus, so it's in the spell trap zone, and you have Ancient Gear Ballista, which is the link to, this targets a spell trap you control and a monster your opponent controls. It destroys your equip to make the opponent's attack and defense 0. And Ruin Force has an effect that if it's destroyed, it can summon up to 3 Machina monsters that are banished, whose total levels equal 12. So what you can do is you can equip this and then banish like 3 Gear Frame off its effect. Effect, pop this, and then effect summons all 3 of the Gear Frames.
That's just outrageous.
So you basically just soul charge for free.
Wow.
Which it did come up at one point this weekend. I had Citadel banished. I popped my Ruin Force, and then Citadel came back, which was really cool. And then we played the 3 Regulus, as I said. Some people like playing like the Field Spell as well, because the Field Spell is a very good card. But the issue with the Field Spell is it loses both Anti-Spell and Draw. Two cards that you don't really want to lose to. And the deck does like lose to Draw if you don't open like a really good hand already. So I didn't want to lose more to it. So just maximizing on the monsters just is great. Also, as I said, it helps you play through break hands because it can equip from grave and then Gear Frame is an extender, which is really nice. Then I played 3 trains in the main. I played 2 Derrick Crane, 1 Bullet Train. These ratios you can also mess around with a bit. Some old builds used to play 2 or like 2 Bullet Train, just in case one got banished. But now with playing Ruin Force, Platinum Gadget, and Unclassify, there are a lot of times you don't always have only Earth Machines on field. And it can only summon itself if you only control Earth Machines. So I didn't want to play multiples of this. And I actually found myself not searching this. This used to be the main search target of a Riverstormer.
Yeah.
But I just found myself searching Regulus most of the time because why put up Recursion when you can set up a negate, right?
Oh, for sure.
And Derrick Crane was crazy all weekend. It chain blocks as well to summon. So in my top 64 match, I went normal summon Harvester. And usually you go channel 1 Harvester, channel 2 Derrick Crane to chain block from Ash. But he had Borrowed Savage on field. And all I wanted to do was summon a guy so I could get another guy on field. And so I went channel 1 Derrick Crane, channel 2 Harvester. Because he had a Borrow End and a set card as well, which I guessed was either Imperm or Droplet. So the Harvester was never resolving. So I said, as long as this resolves, I should have the ability to play better. And I almost broke the board of Imperm Savage Borrow End in my top 64 match. But I opened double Heavy Forward, which is a spell card. But if my other card was any monster in my entire deck to banish for levels off of the Ruin Force, I could have summoned a 4 material Juggernaut Lieb, which gets 4 attacks with 6k attack, which can attack 4 times into Borrowland for 25 each, dealing 10k damage, which would have been sick way to out the board. But unfortunately, I didn't draw a monster, which sucked, but it is what it is. Then the 1 box, it's the brick of the deck. I hate this card. And my only other monster in the deck was 3 Ash Blossom. Card was okay. I only played against 1 Despia opponent, and I won that matchup. The deck, as I've been testing against this deck, Despia for ages. It's the main deck I tested against with Ben Pearson. But Ash was fine. The fact that I didn't play a ton of other hand traps sometimes meant I just had Ash in hand and no other hand traps. So I felt like it kind of conflicted in that way because a lot of the combo, because I faced a lot of combo decks, and 1 Ash doesn't really do a whole lot. So I might see what I want to do about this in the future. But I think Ash was fine. That's it for monsters. I think it's 26 monsters. For spells, I play 3 Heavy Forward. Searches an Infinitrack. It's both a star and an extender, as it searches both Harvester and Dozer. Um, Also, the attach effect. People always read this card. They're so scared of it in the back row, like because it's a rotor. It's a tanky. It's just tanky. It sits there, and people are so scared of this card. They're like, "Oh, does it do anything else? Does it do anything else?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it changes the battle position of my Xyz monster." It's like,
I'm guessing like a lot of players had to like read your cards throughout the event, right?
oh, a hell, yeah, a whole lot, which is like fine. Only one of my games ended up going even close to time. The deck's ability to kill is fine, so I literally tell my opponents, yeah, pick up my cards, read them, take your time, because I'm killing you next turn anyway. So then the best starter in the deck, other than the other one that I'll get onto, but the best going first starter is Machina Overdrive. This card is crazy. The issue is I think I resolved it. I activated it like 7 or 8 times over the weekend, and I think it maybe resolved twice. It's the biggest Ash Magnet in the entire deck. It's a discard. It's an activate then discard to search 2. So if they Ash it, it's a 2-for-1 like Silent Mining.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And like it hurts so much.
They gain with an Ash.
I'm sorry.
Probably the most value they gain with an Ash.
Oh
in
yeah,
their
for sure.
minds, anyway. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Would you say that is the best card though to Ash? Like knowing the deck yourself.
So this deck breaks when it doesn't open a normal summon. The deck doesn't really have a way to play outside of putting a guy on the field. As soon as one guy's on the field, the deck plays. But if it doesn't put a guy on the field, it like really struggles. And because I only play technically like 13 normal summons, and this gets you to 3 of them. If you Ash this, there is actually a pretty high chance that I haven't opened another one. And also it is a 2-for-1, and if this resolves, there is not another good point of interaction with the deck. Except like Riverstormer. If you hit this card, it means I can't get to so if you hit Dozer, sorry, I can't get to Riverstormer a lot of the time. I still can sometimes, but the combos are like really like involved, and they lose to a lot of things. So if you got Ash, you mainly just Ash this. Unless your Earth Machine opponent is going second, you should probably Ash this. This card is crazy. It says summon 2 from deck, so and it's like, oh no, you can't attack except with machine monsters for the rest of the turn. Okay, so every time this card resolved, it was ridiculous. I drew this against one of my Salad opponents, and I drew 2 of them though. So I did combo and I set 1, and I went in your he like wiped my field, but I had resources still. And I went in your end phase, urgent schedule, and he went Ash. I was like, sure, draw phase, draw, urgent schedule. He's like, oh well, I guess we'll go next game. Going first, this card isn't great, so I tend to slide it out going first. But you can like, there are cute things you can do. So you can like, because it has a second effect that if it's set and it's sent to the graveyard, it searches any level 10 machine. So what you can do, like what I do against if I open droplets in 2 of these, which actually comes up, I'd set 1, activate 1, chain the droplets, sacking off both of them, and you get both effects.
Oh, that's clean.
Which is really cool. And the same with the Ballista again. If you have Ballista, you can target a set 1, make your opponent's attack 0/0, and then search a level 10 machine so you can kill them.
Okay, we take that.
That's all engine basically, and then I run for the tech cards. I run 3 Chalice, and 3 Droplet, and 3 Imperm. So I'm maxed out on like targeted like hate, right? Like board negates.
Yeah.
Because what I saw in like the format is that like Punk, for example, it plays through like 2 or 3 or 4 hand traps depending on like if they open, like how well they open. If they open E-Telly right, you're not stopping them. But what they do is they do that whole thing and they end on like 2 monsters. So they don't like the Hawk and the Baron, right? So if you just hold like the Imperm for Scythe, then like you're fine. And this deck is actually more than fine with playing under Scythe for a turn. Because of Citadel and Ruin Force, you can just sit on like a 4600 guy and a 3k guy that both float when they get destroyed, and that they're disruptions in themselves. The Regulus is a negate with the main deck body. Citadel floats and is a quick effect Regeki. And everything floats so much in your deck, you're more than fine with sitting under Scythe for a turn. So many of these were hate for Flunder, and I didn't play against Flunder all weekend, thank God. So it was a great weekend.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
And the last main card in my deck was just Called by the Grave.
Yeah, good card.
Very good card. I don't think I need to have to explain this. It's a good card. Then for the extra deck, with the fresh sleeves.
Looking good.
Yeah, I ran 3 Goliath. Still like 1 for the deck. I consistently loop through 5 of these in a turn. You go through all 3, put them all back, and then go through more. So every time I'd summon 1, people would be like, okay. Then I'd summon the second one, and people would pick it up and read it, and they're like, no, I was right, it doesn't do anything. And then I'd summon the third, and they'd pick up and read the same card again, because they're like, I've got to be missing something, right? You summoned 3 of these things. And no, like, it doesn't really do anything. It's like, this card is your whole grind game. Summoning this and then tributing it off for an Xyz engrave, and then it reattaches itself to an Xyz monster you control when it's sent to the graveyard. So it gives you Xyz materials to search or pop cards. Also, it makes machine Xyz indestructible. So this weekend I summoned a Zeus, and then I had a 3 material Zeus, and this on field. So when I first Zeus wiped, this went to the grave. It reattached itself to Zeus, so I now have a 2 material Zeus. And then they tried to pop it with a card, with like I think it was Chimera. I think they tried to pop it with the Chimera. And it's like, sure, like it dies. And I'm like, no, it does not. Which was very cool. 1 Ballista. I've spoken about this card a lot already. The spell trap pop is like weirdly relevant, but also it searches the Ancient Gear box, which searches another card. So if you summon this, you go like +2, which is really nice. If you draw a box, this combo is obviously not really usable, but it's fine. 1 Anger Knuckle. It's like the boss monster of your deck, basically. It's really unassuming. It just sacks up a monster from your hand or field to summon back a level 10 machine. But the ability for this to make rank 10 trains is crazy. Also, it summons itself back by sacking off any card. So it's like it's really good in grind, because if you have Bullet Train in grave, you just set up a Bullet Train in this loop. Every time this is sent to the graveyard to bring back Bullet Train leaves the field, you add back a card from graveyard to hand, and then this summons itself back, sacking off the card you drew, and then you do the same thing over and over again. So as long as you get this on field, and like it stays in grave and field, your grind games are incredible. Then 1 Platinum Gadget. I summoned this card like 5 times and it resolved once. You need to play this card because it bridges your gear frame and your Infinitrack like engines. But the card kind of sucks, not gonna lie. And my last link is not a machine; it's a Nightmare Phoenix. So there's a lot of zombie world running around right now because of Flunder and stuff like that, and I just didn't want to lose to it. So play Phoenix. Unfortunately, you get locked into machines really early with most of your starters. So if they hold Banshee until after you're locked into machines, there's basically nothing you can do. But a lot of people just like set up Zombie World as soon as they see like Earth machines. They'd like just shotgun it. In which case you can like do lines that go for Phoenix, and then you should be fine.
Sweet.
So that's all the links. For XZs, I run a Gig and X.
OG. Love to see it.
The G. There are combos where you summon 2 of this in a turn, or which is really cool. So you can like the first one adds a starter, then the second one adds back a starter, so you can do it next turn.
Nice.
Which is really cool. I also funny interaction I had with the Salad player is I had Citadel in grave, and I had a gear frame on field, just sitting there. He'd hand trap me, right?
Yeah.
And so he made his Heat Soul and he searched a Cyanide Conflict. So he didn't want to just attack into my gear frame because Citadel were reborn. Then Citadel will wipe the Heat Soul, so Conflict is dead. So he left the gear frame on field. And I drew for turn, and I already had boxing hand, so I normal box and overlaid them both for Gideon X. Now, one funny thing about Gideon X is it shares the same attack points as Heat Soul, 23.
Yeah.
So I crashed my Gideon into his Heat Soul, destroying them both, floated into Citadel, and he was on 26 or something, so Citadel just attacked the game.
Oh, wow.
Which was like, it was really funny.
Pretty heads up play, yeah.
The one River Stormer, this is the best card in your extra deck. It's an Overraptor for Earth Machines. It adds or foolishes any Earth Machine in your deck by detaching material. It also has an effect that tributes any Machine Link monster on the field to summon itself back. So that's where the Goliath comes in. You Goliath tribute for this to summon itself back. Then the Goliath attaches itself. So every turn you're getting another surge. The third effect doesn't come up. It's a hidden effect. It attaches a monster that it destroys by battle to itself. That did come up once. I can't remember what it was. It was like I attacked over snow, I think, and then like attached it as material so that they couldn't use it in grave. And because it's during the damage step, they can't like chain snow. The one Dingirsu,
Nice.
the fantastic Ding. The send effect isn't as relevant as the attach effect in this deck.
Okay.
So, what's really cool is Tunneler, your Pot of Avarice, banishes itself to activate. And because it attaches any machine, you can recycle your Avarice.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So if you're getting into like an Eldritch grind game or something, you can Avarice twice.
Sweet.
You can do the same with Tunneler. And also, if you with Mirror Jade in the format, your cards are constantly getting banished. This can just put them right back, which is really cool. And it dealt with a Dragoon. When was the last time you saw Dragoon?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
What deck was that you played again? Sorry.
In Despia, he went activate
Despia.
Branded Fusion, and he went send Dark Magician, send Fallen of Albaz, and I'm like, excuse me.
Oh, that's wild, man.
And it makes Lubellion effect, shuffle back the Dark Magician and the Albaz for Dragoon, and I'm like, all right, Chief, I see how it is.
Seems legit, yeah.
Then I run the River Stormer. The Earth Slicer, sorry. I don't run Enter Blafnir. I think the utility this does with popping your own cards to reborn Citadel is far greater, and it being an Earth Machine means it doesn't care about you being logged into Earth Machines.
Okay.
And there are turn 1 combos that summon Enter Blafnir to rip a card out your opponent's hand. And like the explanation behind that is you get to see what your opponent's playing, so you can build your board accordingly. The truth is, your boards don't change that much, depending on the matchup. So, like, I don't think ripping one random card out your opponent's hand, especially in a format with Despia, where you can banish a Tragedy or Mirror Courier and give them a search.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm playing Ding, so I already have an out to untargetable guys, right? Then I run 3 trains. The big boys, you know.
Yeah.
This card is crazy. With Dora, I just sometimes make this without Derek Rain. It just sit there on field. And it's so incredibly hard for decks to out. And if they do out it, it's basically always by battle. And if they try and out it by battle, then I float into Citadel. So I'm never dying through this card. Every time I summon this card, like I didn't die. It's basically card decks aren't built to deal with this. And if it has a Derek Rain underneath it, and they imperm this in like their standby phase to out it, then when I use the effect attaching the Derek Rain still triggers. So even if they imperm this, it's still a Dryden.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Which is really nice. Gustav for time and OTKs. Lee is a big dude. He's a really big guy. And then the last one is just Zeus.
Zeus, yeah.
Yeah, it's the boy.
Some Zeus.
It's an Xyz focused deck. I don't really have to explain this a lot. Because it's a machine, as I say, Goliath can be put underneath this, and it makes it indestructible by card effects. And Heavy Forward can attach itself as material. Not at this event, but I have made a Zeus up to 10 materials. Which is really silly.
It's insane.
That's it for the main deck. I don't think there's anything I'd change. As I was saying, like the Ash potentially, or like I consider maining Nibs, which I'm currently siding. 3 of them. Maybe these are going to main. I faced a lot of combo, and these basically went in every single game. And if I was going to main these, I'd change Chalices for Veilers or Gammas to combo better with the Nib. And Gammas, I'm also looking into like quite a lot because they can like protect redeployment from going through rate to stop the Ash.
Yeah.
But Nib like overperformed all weekend. It was crazy. I played 2 Droll, so the opposite ratios as Ben Pearson had.
2 nibs, 3 Droll.
Yeah, he played 2 Nib, 3 Droll. I was like, Droll was okay. I didn't see it all that often. I didn't side it in all that often. But I didn't see it all that often because I played 2, right? So,
yeah.
Like, that's not a reasoning behind it, but like, it wasn't fantastic. It was mainly like 2 more siding cards for Flunder, and I didn't face any. So, and like, they're not good versus Salad. They're not good versus Sword Soul. The Despia opponent I faced, I didn't side this in because my main deck is already like good enough to beat Despia. That's what it's built for.
Yeah.
So like, it was only okay, but I think that might have just been like format dependent. Twin Twisters is like my back row removal and the 1 reboot. I don't need to explain the reboot. This card's crazy. The Twisters, I could have played Cosmic or Lightning Storm. I was really scared of Anti-Spell. 6 of my 12 starters, so half of them, lose to Anti-Spell. Obviously, going second Urgent Schedule becomes a star as well, so I guess not so much. But also things like Floodgates, this deck loses to basically every Floodgate going second. And I just didn't want to lose to those. So Twin Twisters were fantastic all weekend. I also, most of the time, I sided in one of these going first as well, even into combo. Most combo decks right now are also playing Brave. Yeah. So not only is it a Mystic Mine out, it's like a Brave out, right?
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Which is really cool. Then I played 6 going first cards. I played 3 Anti-Spell and 3 Dim Barrier.
Yeah.
So this deck's ability to go first is like okay. It sets up a guy and a negate sometimes, but it draws 2 cards after thinning the deck by like 15, 20 cards. So the chance of drawing into one of these cards is so high. It's really, really good. And like usually, if I win the die roll, I'll set like Imperm, Chalice, Droplet going first, or Call by the Grave. So I'll have a ton of back row. And so most people side in back row hate, like Lightning Storm and stuff like that, right? These beat those cards. So this beats Lightning Storm, Mystic Mine, stuff like that.
Yeah.
This beats like Twisters and Cosmic, stuff like that. So like the one time I did get red rebooted on Anti-Spell, didn't matter because I had 4 sets. So he was like, he felt so happy when he rebooted me.
Yeah.
And I had Chalice Droplet in the back row. So it was like, you've turned off like one of my back rows, and it was fine. And that's it for the deck profile.
Sweet. So
can we go over matchups?
What was yeah, you can do that. What was your score again?
So I finished 8-2 after Swiss. I finished 19th, which was like, I was really impressed. I wasn't expecting to finish that high up. The only 2 people I lost to, one ended up going top 16, and the other one was the winner of the event, Nick. He was my loss in round 9, and Neil was my loss in round 2 for tier 0.
Sweet. And I believe this was your first ever nationals, right?
This was my first ever nationals, yes.
Very impressive. So
topping my first ever nationals with Earth Machine, no less, was yeah, it felt really good.
Yeah, well done, man. Well done.
So yeah, I played against first round was Salad, second round was Punk Adventurer, third round was Salad, and fourth round was Salad. So I felt like I was playing 2019.
Okay.
Fifth round was Despia, 7 was Sword Soul. So I was like, okay, more meta. Then my 7th round was Plunder Patrol. I felt so bad for the dude. On an Earth deck. What does he do? So we just chilled and had a chat basically while playing. Like, unfortunately for him, he knew he wasn't going to win. I knew I was going to win. I could have played like really badly and still won. It's really unfortunate. Plunder just hard loses this matchup. It's a shame. Then round 8 was the worst game I've ever played in my life. Not because I played badly, not because my opponent played badly. We both bricked for 7 turns.
Okay, so the grind was real. You're playing some caveman Yu-Gi-Oh.
he was playing Punk Adventurer Therion. And at one point, I had to normal summon Ancient Gearbox, crash it, and so I could go Therion Regulus, target box to get a negate, because I didn't have another machine engrave. And my guy went chain cross out, declare Regulus.
Let's go. These are the best kind of games. What did you
It
do?
was ridiculous.
These are the
I ended
best
up
kind of
winning.
games.
I ended up winning, but that was fine. Then round 9, I was against Drytron. The guy swept me up. Like, he ended up winning the event. But game 1, he set up his full board of Vanities, Mirage Light, Link Rebo, Orange Light, Lancier in hand.
Seems legit.
And I look at my 5-card hand, and I'm like, you know what? I out this board.
No way.
Yeah. And then, what do I draw for my 6th card?
The brick.
Only the
brick.
fucking unclaspbar. So I can no longer play. And I'm like, come on, chief.
It's always that random variance.
Yeah, exactly. So
the game.
I skipped up the game. I didn't give him any info.
Yeah.
That's the one benefit I had with this deck is people don't expect me to be on it. And I'm on 45 cards, so people expect like Despia, right?
Yeah.
So he puts in his side cards for Despia. And I draw my hand, and it's not great. But I open, it's like in combo, it's only Harvester. But I open Dim Barrier, Ash, Droll.
That'll get you there.
So I'm like, I should win this game. So I set up Riverstorm, Regulus, Dim Barrier, Ash, Droll. And he goes, stand by me. Mystic Mine. And I'm like, oh, come on. But because I didn't combo, I had more cards in the deck than him. So he couldn't deck me out. So I was just hoping the Droll and stuff would get me there. So a couple turns later, he sets... I chain Regulus, but Regulus doesn't negate Mystic Mine. It just like removes itself off the field for free. So because I'm only on one monster, after a couple turns, he sets another card over his field spell. And he starts playing. But I draw him. And so he looks at me, takes his 2 level 1 monsters, overlays for an Xyz, uses the effect Sending Gamma, attacks into my guy, crashes it so he has no monsters left on field, activates the second Mystic Mind. And I'm like, oh, come on! But it was fine. It's under mine, but it was a fun game. And then last round was against Punk Adventurer, which I ended up winning. Okay. And then in my top 64, it was Dragon Link Adventurer. He goes first. As I said, I needed one more monster to out the board, but it wasn't a monster, which unfortunately happens, right? Yeah. And then game 2, I'm like, okay, I'm going first. I draw Anti-Spell as my first card. I'm like, fantastic. Okay. Then I draw Imperm, and I'm like, okay, we're looking good. Then I draw another Anti-Spell, and I'm like, come on, give me a starter. Then I draw a second Imperm, and I'm like, come on. And then I draw Regulus. So I couldn't play. But overall, it was a fantastic event, and it was a pleasure to play. All my opponents were really sweet all day. Everybody like came up to me and they're like, "Did you top with Earth Machine? Did you top with Earth Machine?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it was really cool. I hope to go to next year's as well.
Nice. Yeah. Just before you go, you got any shout outs or anything else you want to say?
Yeah. So biggest shout out to my main testing circle. So Brad Little and Bhavin Patel we've been testing for a long time now. Ben Lawrence and Ben Pearson are people I tested with a lot as well. There are a bunch of other people. There's way too many to name here. All of those people in the car ride home with me as well. It was fantastic time. Getting there as well. That I write like karaoke. It was fantastic. Shout out to ALX. Was the locals. Unfortunately, it shut down this weekend. But we had a place to play our locals for a long time, and it was fantastic while it lasted.
Sweet.
That's about it.
Okay, thank you for that, Jacob. That was Jacob's top 64 Earth Machine deck.
Mm-hmm.